Welcome to another Walter Football video. I'm Charlie Campbell, Senior Draft Analyst, the most accurate mock drafter in the world. If you don't believe me, check the links below. All right, so here we are. Training camps are rolling here around the NFL. We had our first preseason game already. They're going to be ramping up more, of course. A lot of the relevant stuff in the preseason for teams just doesn't really come across well on TV in terms of final roster spots, depth, earning a spot on special teams, looking for waiver wire pickups, all these things that bring value to the preseason games for NFL teams really kind of aren't made for TV. So we have to kind of gut it out and wait for the games to get started. But we've had a lot of interesting stuff in the past couple weeks here with Terry McLaurin from Washington requesting a trade. You got Micah Parsons requesting a trade with the Cowboys. And then TJ Watt, did his giant contract extension with the Steelers. So I kind of wanted to hit on those three things and take a little look at kind of some tough decisions these franchises have to make. And maybe some of them aren't tough, some of them are easy, but when it gets to a certain point in a player's career, it can get tough. So let's take each one on their own. So Terry McLaurin with Washington. So he is doing a hold in there, requested a trade. Washington has no interest in trading him. Obviously, there are a lot of teams that could use him. I think contract-wise, supposedly, I think he's looking to get in like the 30-some million range. Amon-Ra St. Brown signed a 4-year, 120 contract a year ago. That quickly got passed up by guys like Jamar Chase, and then you had A.J. Brown and Garrett Wilson and whatnot. So given what McLaurin means to Washington as the number one receiver for Jaden Daniels, I think they're making a mistake in letting it get this far. I think they definitely should try and put him in that St. Brown range at 30 or Garrett Wilson at 32. Try and put him right there with those guys because you want him practicing. You want, the months off. You want them to, reinvigorate that connection with him and Jaden Daniels. As great as Jaden Daniels was as a rookie last year, we've seen young quarterbacks come in the league and play well as rookies and then have regression and then maybe turn it around. You want to avoid that situation. You want to avoid any kind of sophomore slump, especially at the quarterback position, and have a loss of confidence or just, Washington knows what that's all about, having seen it with RG3 and whatnot. So I think they're making a mistake by playing hardball and trying to get him into the 20s. You have Jaden Daniels on his rookie contract, so he's a cheap starter. You're getting massive savings there. So I do think that Washington is playing with fire here, causing unnecessary problems, and they really should have gotten this deal done before training camp. So that's how I feel about McLaurin in terms of Washington for a trade. I think if it deteriorates to the point that they do have to trade him, I think you're looking at getting a first-round pick in return, maybe a day 2 pick as well. Maybe it's kind of staggered with like a 1 next year and then a 2 the year after or something like that. It could be something similar to what the Packers got for Devontae Adams, who was at a kind of similar age point in his career when they traded him to the Raiders. So I don't think he would get 2 number 1s in return, given that he is 30 years old. And I think that just at that age and the kind of player he is, I don't think that a team would give them 2 1s for him. But a day 1, first round pick next year, day 2 pick year after, I could see that being, kind of the price for him. And you have plenty of teams that definitely could use him, and he would be an upgrade. You think of obviously teams like The Raiders definitely have a huge hole at wide receiver. The Patriots, he'd be an upgrade there for over an aging Stephon Diggs, in my opinion. So you definitely could find a trading partner, I think, for him. And that contract, while it's not cheap, it's not, I think, beyond the realm of feasibility for another team to get that done and pay McLaurin, as part of the trade. So that's how I look at that situation. Micah Parsons, and I tweeted this out or posted on X. I don't know what you call it. I mean, is it a tweet now? What is it? Whatever. Anyways, with Parsons, I think you could definitely get 2 first-round picks for him. He's in his mid-20s, entering the prime years of his career, has been a dynamic pass-rushing presence off the edge. He's got plenty of good years left in the tank. I think his best football could still be ahead of him. So I definitely feel like Parsons would get you 2 first-round picks back, and maybe more. I don't think you'd get 3 like the Deshaun Watson deal because he's not a quarterback, but I think you could get 2, and then maybe like a day 2 pick in there as well. I mean, that's what the Rams gave up for Matthew Stafford along with Jared Goff. I mean, that was just a bounty of a trade for Detroit. I mean, to get their starting quarterback, 2 first-round picks, and I think they got like a 3rd-round pick in that immediate draft because the Rams didn't have a first-round pick the year they did that trade because they were still paying off the Ramsey trade with Jacksonville. So Detroit took the long-term view, and it really paid off for them. And as I reported a year ago, or 2 years ago, I'm not sure exactly. It's funny, the Lions had a trade lined up with Carolina for Matthew Stafford to go to the Panthers for their first round pick, which I think that year was 8th overall. I think that was the year they took J.C. Horn right after the Lions took Penny Sewell. So if the Rams didn't swoop in, Stafford would have gone to Carolina, and the Lions would have never had Jared Goff necessarily. You never know. Brad Holmes drafted him with the Rams, so he always liked Goff, so maybe he would have still ended up a Lion one way or another. But kind of interesting little tidbit there that I reported that probably a lot of have forgotten about. But yeah, Stafford almost was a Panther, and the Lions almost didn't have this amazing trade that reinvigorated their franchise. But back to Parsons. So 2 first-round picks for him for sure, but I don't think Dallas is going to do it at all. I think they're going to pay him. It's just I think Dallas has not handled these contract negotiations well with the Jones family and some of their star players, with some of the issues in CeeDee Lamb contract, his extension, and haggling with Prescott and other players over the years. They just do not seem to really handle these situations well. I think there's just probably too much ego involved with Dallas, and I think that they're they're pissing off their players and agents and whatnot with how they handle some of this stuff, and it's not really, it's unnecessary. You don't hear about that with some of these other teams around the league. But at any rate, I don't think he's going to go. I think that's what they could get for him. But as I said in that post on X, it's with that contract, he's going to become the highest paid defensive player in the league. He'll top TJ Watt. And so there's only so many teams that can afford to add that contract and give up multiple first-round picks to do it. I think you'd have to, some of the prime candidates would be teams with a player on that rookie contract, this quarterback on a rookie contract, because you're not paying a quarterback $40-some million a year on that deal. You have massive savings, so you could think of like the Bears, the Patriots, the Redskins, but I mean, they never going to deal Parsons within the division. So it'd have to be a team, I think, more like that. And obviously Chicago and New England are a bit more interesting because They both could use more young edge rush talent, so he definitely would fit the need there. And then it would really help that side of the ball and playing complementary football and helping your young quarterback and whatnot. But I do think that Dallas will just shun those offers and just wouldn't go through with it and pull the trigger on that. So, but those two teams, I think, if Dallas were to trade him, I would be more inclined to try and do a team like that where those picks, maybe Caleb Williams doesn't develop that well. There's been talk that he hasn't been great this training camp. He's going to be in a new system. It's just no continuity from year one to year two. A lot of moving parts, the competition at left tackle, and so definitely I think that if you're Dallas and you are going to trade him, you want to trade him to a team that you think could disappoint, and those picks coming back to you might be top 20 picks 2 years in a row, or maybe it's pretty high this year, lower next year, but you're still getting, top 25 picks in return. You don't want to deal a guy like Parsons, say, to the Chiefs or Ravens, for example, because you're basically going to be getting late 20s, around pick 30 in return. That's almost like dealing him for 2 second-rounders. So that's not good return for an elite player like that. So they're not going to do it, but if you just brainstorm it out, I think that's kind of the potential fits, the cost, and how it could roll out if they were going to do it. But I don't think it'll happen. I think they'll just end up paying him, pissing him off and causing problems unnecessarily, but eventually he'll get the contract and they'll try and move on. All right, so now TJ Watt. So that contract, they make him the highest paid defensive player in the year, as expected, tops Myles Garrett. And it's really, the Steelers, to me, this was a really fascinating offseason. Obviously, you pay him, but the other moves with DK Metcalf and Aaron Rodgers and Jalen Ramsey, and they're going for it now, going all in, trying to win with Rodgers this year, as he said, probably his last in the NFL. But, are they really going to be better and capable of beating the Ravens and the Chiefs and the Bills, the big three in the playoffs? I think Walt had a really good point when we were talking a few weeks ago about who's the fourth best team in the AFC. And I think you can make a big argument. You can argue about the Steelers, the Bengals, the Chargers. I think the Broncos should definitely be in that consideration with how their defense played last year and how Bo Nix, I think, will really develop well under Sean Payton. So I would throw them in there. But the Steelers, they could have gone another route. They could have done, instead of trying to win with older players in this 1 year, it would have been, I definitely would have considered for them potentially doing the opposite and just doing a rebuild and trading TJ Watt for multiple first round picks, trading other assets you have for early round picks, because the AFC is such a juggernaut. It would not surprise me at all if the Steelers play solid football this year, maybe win 10, 11 games, lose to one of these teams in the playoffs. This roster ends up aging out with Rodgers, TJ Watt, Cam Hayward. They don't have any rings to show for it, spent a lot of money, and you could have gotten a bunch of picks in return for some of these guys and done a real rebuild of a youthful team, build a young core to go and take on the elite in the AFC with the Chiefs, Bills, Ravens. I mean, I've been thinking about it for weeks, debating it in my head, which route you go. But now with Watt's contract, that's a done deal, because with that contract already being signed and whatnot, and who knows the dead money, if let's say a year from now, or not even a year, 6 months from now, if Rodgers is done, they fall short in the playoffs, or they win a game or two in the playoffs but don't win the Super Bowl, and Rodgers is finished. Now you're back where you were in the past few years without a starting quarterback. Got to figure it out again, picking in the back half of the first round. So the odds of a good one falling to you are slim. Do we make the giant trade up? Now we have a young quarterback that we're trying to win immediately with, while TJ Watt and some of our really good players on defense are aging out, or starting to age, and are highly paid and expensive veterans. So really fascinating to me. I think you could make a great argument for they should have done the rebuild and tried to kind of follow that pattern, like say that Detroit did, with using a valuable veteran piece to get a huge return, and use those picks and build up a young core to put you amongst the elite of your conference and be a Super Bowl competitor with many years to go. Like people like the Lions, they have a Super Bowl window here that's going to go on for multiple years. It's not just this year. I mean, Gibbs, Jamison Williams, St. Brown, Sewell, all these guys are younger players that have plenty of left in the tank. Hutchinson, I mean, Laporta, it's just they've drafted well. They've built a team that is going to be competitive for many years to come. It's not like they have a bunch of guys that are in their 30s and this is their last year or two. That's more of what the Steelers are doing. And so I think that you could make a good argument that given how tough the AFC is, how difficult it's going to be to run through the Bills, Ravens, and Chiefs on the way to the Super Bowl, having to probably beat at least two of them, if not all three, that's tough. That is tough with a 40-something-year-old quarterback, a defense that showed serious age late last season, and you're trying to, kind of get in these new pieces. There's no continuity with Rodgers and the offensive scheme and DK Metcalf. You got a rookie running back. I mean, it's just they're really trying to win on the fly. And I think that, with the coaching staff they have and with those veteran players, they're going to be competitive and tough. I think that for sure. But I don't think they'll get through those three teams. And I think that they lose in the playoffs. And then would it have been smarter in the long term to deal TJ Watt, let the new team do that contract, get a boatload of picks for him, trade other valuable veterans, and then just start a rebuild and try and do it, build a young core for the long-term future. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I definitely am interested in seeing if you guys think what the Steelers should have done there. If you think that the Cowboys or Redskins should trade McLaurin or Parsons, be interested in seeing what you guys think there, or if they should hold on to them. So love to hear it. But thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, all that stuff, and I'll be back with you soon. Take care.